Hello everybody, this is Starman and welcome to the first chapter of Let's Play Tex Murphy Overseer. Now, this is the fifth game in the Tex Murphy series, and time has not been as kind to it as it has to Under a Killing Moon and the Pandora Directive. And honestly, the only reason for that is bad timing and just a lot of bad luck all around. Now, this game did continue the tradition started with Under a Killing Moon, where they used live actors to play the characters, and this game probably has the most diverse and the most big-name talent associated with it. We've got Michael York, great Shakespearean actor, who probably is best known to most of you as Logan from Logan's Run, or Basil Exposition from the Austin Powers movies. Henry Darrow, who is a great actor who did a lot of westerns, but is probably best known for his part in The High Chaparral and being the first Latino actor to play Zorro on television. He also played the father of Zorro in a couple of productions. It features Richard Norton, who is a fairly famous actor in martial arts movie circles, but he also had a rather rich career as a personal trainer and bodyguard for a number of celebrities, including David Bowie and Linda Ronstadt, who encouraged him to get into acting. He fought Chuck Norris in the movie Octagon, and that's considered one of the greatest fight scenes of all time by aficionados of that sort of thing. And more recently, he was a stunt coordinator on Mad Max Fury Road, Suicide Squad, and he is apparently, according to Internet Movie Database, Scarlett Johansson's personal martial arts trainer on the upcoming live-action Ghost in the Shell movie. We've got Rebecca Bronsard, who she plays. She was recast as Sylvia, Tex's ex-wife, and she has had a pretty varied career, but she was most famous at the time for being in The Two Jakes, another film noir type movie. And we also have Clint Howard, Ron's younger brother, who was famous mostly for being the creepy kid in that one episode of the original Star Trek, and being the creepy guy in a bunch of other stuff. And he plays a creepy guy in this one, too. And for no apparent reason other than, well, it was the 90s and he was in pretty much everything else, Joe Estevez has a part in this. I won't spoil who they're all playing. I'll point them out as we get to them. But historically, Overseer was a very important game. It was the first video game to be shipped on a DVD-ROM. Yeah, everything was still CDs up until this point. And when you bought the game, you actually got both copies. You got the DVD and, one DVD disc and 5 CD-ROMs carrying the game. Oh, how far we've come since then. Now, originally, Overseer was going to be a different game called Trance, and it was going to be a more direct sequel to Pandora Directive. Instead, Overseer is sort of a remake of Mean Streets, partially told in flashback, and we'll see that as it's going on. But the whole original idea was that Access Games was approached by Intel, the microchip company, about making a game that they could use to show off the hardware. And we'll actually see some Intel logos and promotional stuff in the game as a nod toward that. Well, make a long story short, the deal fell through, but they had all this work done on this new short little remake thing that was just meant to show off the capabilities of the Intel chip and DVD-ROMs and all this new technology. So they wound up deciding to, okay, we'll take this, we'll use this as a bridge to the next game. And they were going to create a trilogy that was going to follow up Pandora Directive, and the games were going to be called Chance, Polarity, and then the final game would be Trance. Unfortunately, before they got around to that, just after Overseer came out, and did not sell quite as well as they'd hoped, given the Intel bundling plan, Microsoft bought the company, and they really weren't interested in adventure games, which were starting to die down in popularity at that point. They were more interested in the sports sims that Access also made, like Lynx LS. So, Aaron Connors and Chris Jones tried to get a few more Tex Murphy games made. They kept making proposals, but Nothing was doing. And then Microsoft sold access to Take-Two Interactive, and then they changed the name of the studio to IndieBuilt, and then IndieBuilt shut down, at which point Aaron Connors and Jones went and founded their own company, Big Finish Games. And then, this is in 2007, then 2 years later, in 2009, they were able to reacquire the rights to the Tex Murphy series. And a couple of years later, after a Kickstarter campaign, they were able to finance the Tesla Effect, which was the 6th Tex Murphy game, which we will get to eventually. But right now, let us dive into the world of Overseer. Nice new logo, huh? And the Tex Murphy Overseer logo here isn't too bad either. Well, we'll go ahead and start a new game. I'm going to go ahead and go with playthrough on this one. I did play through this 2 ways ahead of time, because as with Pandora Directive, there are 2 modes here. We have an entertainment mode and a gamer mode. The only difference is, as it says, there are hints available on entertainment mode, and you only get 1,500 points. The game player lever mode, there's a timer on some of the puzzles, but you get extra bonus points for completing it in a certain amount of time. You can get 4,000 points there. Well, actually, you can get 3,900 points because there's a glitch in one of the puzzles. But that's not going to affect us because we're going to do the entertainment mode. Because unlike Pandora Directive, there are no extra bits in the gamer mode. They just make the puzzles have a time limit on them or give you more points for solving it quickly. And this game, as we're going to see, is stressful enough without me putting a time limit on it. So, for those of you who remember the lava maze from Pandora Directive, sorry, there won't be anything like that this time. We're just going to simply play through it, enjoy the story, which we've kind of already seen before since this is basically a remake of Mean Streets, but there's enough changes that this will be fairly interesting. And there's a bunch of little nods here and there that are rather amusing, but we'll get to that as we go along. So, with no further ado, the opening movie. Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah, having the credits scroll by left to right like this, really not the best idea. Henry Darrow. Suzanne Barnes. If you can read this, you do not need glasses. Do 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 do. So yeah, 6 years before Pandora Directive. Suddenly everything goes all 80s music video. Lies, 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 yeah.
My life was hard. Things could get worse and worse. Worse and worse and worse. Is your daddy dead?
Tex? Are you okay? Sit up for a minute in the camera.
And yeah, I need to apologize at this moment for... there are subtitles for this game, but they don't always sync up immediately with the video. You can still read along easily enough, but there will be some bits where the audio will get ahead of the credits and vice versa. I'm not sure if that was a problem with the original DVD transfer or if that's just a problem with the good old games download. But anyway, yeah, we've got a few conversation options here, and this is another one of the reasons why the game isn't quite as well regarded as the Pandora Directive, is that I don't think any of the answers you get really change anything apart from which smart aleck or mart you're giving. There's nothing here where it really changes things up too much for the most part. At least, not that I can remember from playing through it, but let's see. Flat refusal, classic excuse, give fair warning. I think we will go with the classical excuse.
No, I've fallen. I can't get up.
Oh, come on, sweetie. Let me see that handsome face of yours.
Give fair warning, the man without a face not ready to rise and shine. Well, got this one again, fair warning.
I know you're a strong woman, Chelsea, but even you've got your limits.
Quit stalling. I want to see the real you.
Chuck Heston humor, show Chelsea the goods. Now, let's see how long we can draw this out.
You've never seen me first thing in the morning. I gotta warn you, not a pretty sight.
Morning? I have never understood PI standard time. But for the rest of us, hey, it's not the morning anymore.
Bleary-eyed, biological excuse, show Chelsea the goods. And, yeah, it's worth noting, again, if you watched my playthrough of the Pandora Directive, that the neutral ending, where Chelsea walks off into the sunset with a hologram of Clark Gable, is the canon one. So, the happy ending where you and Chelsea hook up did not happen as far as this game is concerned. At least not yet.
I'm having a little trouble focusing here. What time is it?
You probably forgot, but our date starts in exactly 12 minutes. Lucky for you, there is a 1-hour grace period.
Apologize, a little Chicago philosophy, heartfelt gratitude. Let's go with Chicago.
Tell me, Chelsea, does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care?
I happen to. I have a nice surprise planned, if you show up, that is.
What to wear, looking for Nookie, Lover's Lane. Oh, what the heck.
All right. Well, I sure hope it's bowling, because I just got my ball waxed.
No, we're not going to the Ten Pin Palace, and we're not having chili dogs either. Now don't go back to sleep. Make yourself beautiful as quick as you can and zip on over here. I'll be waiting.
Sorry I'm late.
Well, at least you're here. Come on in, let me take your hat and your coat.
He actually cleaned up pretty well.
Light. You kind of look like a princess.
Well, thank you. So which one of the dwarves do I have with me tonight? Happy, grumpy, or dopey?
Sleepy, actually. But hey, I'll tell you what. I put on a fresh shirt. I'm wearing the tie you asked me to wear. Get a couple of drinks for me. I'm gonna perk right up, okay?
Well, you look like you've been working hard.
Oh, man, I'm exhausted. It's just that I can't seem to get a decent night's sleep.
You still having those nightmares?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think if you kept a little bit more normal hours and you ate a decent meal every now and again, you might look and feel a lot better. And that's why we have an 8 o'clock reservation at the Golden Pagoda.
Well, since you got to pick the restaurant, maybe I could be in charge of the early evening entertainment. Because if we...
Tex, honey, listen. I don't want you to think that I'm not interested. I am. It's just that I think that we have some things that we really need to discuss first.
Uh-oh.
Such as?
I just think it would be nice if our relationship could go further.
What, like, all the way to second base?
No. All I'm talking about is the ability to commit to something that has the potential to make us both very happy.
It's about Sylvia, isn't it?
No, and it's not about marriage. It's about that one thing that prevents us from being close.
What does Sylvia have to do with you and me?
You tell me.
Okay. If you really want to know, I'll tell you. Keep in mind, 6 years ago, I was pretty much an idiot. The colonel had just fired me from his detective agency because I thought everything had to be done by the book. Literally. Well, being the naive optimist that I was, I decided to go into business for myself and become a big success. As it turned out, I was about to learn some even harder lessons. There I was in my shiny new office with all the trimmings up to my ears in debt. Weeks had gone by and I was still waiting around for my first client to show up. I figured I'd have more work than I could handle in a big city like New San Francisco. And I was just starting to feel like a tiny bug on the windshield. Yeah, Chelsea, you wouldn't believe it, but I had a really nice office. Let me tell you about it.
And yeah, here we see that the interface has changed a little bit since the last game. For one thing, we now have the whole window instead of just a little corner and then everything else being taken up by the button interface. Whenever we mouse over something we can interact with, it'll bring up a crosshair, and from there we can click on it to bring up magnifying glass for look, and then other options for pick up.
I use this tape to measure my success. I've just got to dust it off and it'll work like a charm.
So go ahead and take that.
Made these vases in my high school pottery class. It was the easiest B- I ever got. Collection of Latvian literature. I use these books for scrap paper.
And as always, we have some nice humorous descriptions by clicking on everything in the room.
Made these vases in my high school pottery class.
Unfortunately, we get a lot more repetitive remarks.
These are travelogues of every country in the world that begins with A. These are travelogues of every country in the world.
Even with me clicking on the statue.
It's the Linda Goodman Sun Sign series, complete with a Leo bookend. It's the Linda Goodman Sun Sign collection of Latvian literature. I don't want to brag, but I own every John Grisham novel ever published. History of animal testing. I read a couple of chapters whenever I feel like getting really worked up.
Of course, still the problem, everything looks really flat when you get right up close to it.
The compendium of mediocre Sherlock Holmes ripoffs. My favorite is the short story by Joe Esterhaus, The Sign of the Thong.
That would, of course, be the writer of Showgirls.
Ay, 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 la policía! Studies in Venezuelan policing tactics. My murder mystery collection. I've read so many. The way I figure, I'll pretty much have every case solved before I leave my office. 300 years of dance and the dance instructor's guide to proper footwork. If this PI gig doesn't work out, I can always go back to giving dance lessons. It's a proud Murphy family tradition.
And as those of you who watch my playthrough of Under a Killing Moon know, eventually Tex is forced to do just that. And you can bring your mouse down here to bring up a direct interface that lets you do the whole movement thing. You can go up higher, lower, tilt up, tilt down, level off. Personally, I just use the keypad to do that.
300 years of dance and...
That's an entirely different book set.
These are all biographies of Wayne Newton. I don't know why people always found him so fascinating. Well, I'm not sure why, but this sculpture is called Every Day is Sunday to a Bird. The Cliff Notes collection of the world's most complicated novels. I say trim the fat. Some people have power ties. I have power plants. I bought this dressing screen because it can double as a throw rug. The guy who sold me my stone masks said either they were a fertility charm or would curse me to lifelong poverty and a violent death. Live dangerously, I say.
I think I know which one it is.
All right. Looks like the latest issue of Boyd's Life has arrived. I wonder what that crazy Boyd is up to this month. Oh, Boyd's Life. Annual fishing issue. I wonder what those twins are up to this month.
Mutant fish. Catch them before they catch you.
One thing's for sure. This isn't the only love seat in the office. The lady on QVC said these commemorative Elvis plates were collectibles. I figure I got my retirement all taken care of.
Just keep telling yourself that.
The lady on QVC... My fax machine's brand new. Now if I could just get a fax from someone other than my mom. This perpetual motion device just goes on and on and on. Reminds me of my crazy Uncle Cadmus.
And we can, of course, play with the perpetual motion device.
The cabinet itself was dirt cheap, but I was surprised at how much they charged me for the drawers.
Hey, it's not cheap to get into someone's drawers. Actually, let's go up and then tilt down.
This here's my little buddy.
And as always, we have to go through...
In this drawer, I'm going to compile my own list of moral and ethical guidelines that a private investigator should adhere to. I'll need this space just for petty cash.
Oh, what's this empty
I
drawer?
think I'll keep this drawer empty. Well, I've only got a few things in my file cabinets right now, but someday they'll be jam-packed. This drawer will store the civic responsibility citations I'll receive from community and religious organizations. Well, I've only got a few things in my file cabinets right now. This is where I'll store information on the dangers of alcohol and tobacco, and the importance of a personal daily fitness program.
Ha!
Here's where I intend to keep the background data for the motivational self-help books I intend to write.
Again, note, young idealistic Tex.
As soon as I get a case, I'll have something to stick in here.
Make your own joke. And still moving.
Nothing refreshes like cool, clear water. The PI Rules is my Bible. 20 tried and true aphorisms with plenty of blank pages to add your own. I've come up with 17 others so far.
One of which will be always avoid laser grids.
Extreme Sports Illustrated is pretty cutting edge. The last issue had an article on ultimate chess. 30 men and 2 women in a literal fight to the death.
Foreshadowing.
I fill my ashtray with candy in hopes that visitors will forego the dangers of smoking in favor of good, wholesome, processed sugar. I just got this phone, and it came with a free 2-week subscription to the American Information Database. I can request data on my cases, and it will be faxed to my office immediately.
Welcome to the American Information Database. We hope you enjoy your free 2-week trial subscription. Our new voice recognition interface makes requesting information more convenient than ever before. Simply tell us the topic you want researched. The request will be immediately transmitted to our central database. Any available information will be sent, usually within seconds, to your fax number. What topic would you like us to research?
Oh, the resources they thought we'd have in the future before the internet came along. of course, right now we have nothing to ask about except ourselves.
A search for information on Tex Murphy has been initiated. What other topic would you like us to research?
And yeah, unfortunately you cannot type in your own topics.
Thank you for using the American Information Database. Goodbye.
So now we look at
My
the...
fax machine's brand new. Now,
You have a fax.
They did recycle that sound effect, though. Okay, so check inventory. We now have a fax on Tex Murphy. Born March 4th, 2004. Graduated University of Investigation of Utah. Received private investigator's license 2032. Worked for Dobbs Investigative Services 2033-36. Received personal business license 2037. Signed 1-year lease at Business Complex 813 4th Street, New San Francisco. And check out everything else in our inventory.
the Colonel told me this book was for idiots, but I found these words of wisdom to be both inspiring and instructive.
We don't get to look at much more than that, though.
The only pet I've ever had. His name is Raymond.
I'll call him Algernon. And of course, another new feature, if we want to access our inventory, we pan to the right. And we got, 101 pickup lines that really work. Lynx 2037, the ultimate golf game. And yes, Boyd's Life, a magazine for men. The January 2037 edition. And tape measure. Well, it's a tape measure. Unfortunately, we also don't get a lot of sarcastic comments regarding our inventory. And then if we scroll to the left, here's where we can see our current score and locations that we can move to. Not a bad new interface. Just takes some getting used to after the tried and true one.
The rich cherrywood finish of my new desk presents an image of stability and success to my clients.
And we can't look at the screen. Of course, we have lots of nice drawers here to mess with.
Desk presents an image. I like to think of this as my little flute.
The sound quality is as great as ever,
This is
though.
where my clients sit, hypothetically. Clients sit, hypothetically. Well, empty. The rich cherrywood finish. Nothing in here yet. Someday, this drawer will hold my favorite pens and pencils. Well, I had a candy bar wrapper in here, but it looked messy, so I threw it out.
Ah!
Well, empty.
So, yeah, nothing there at the moment.
This is where letters of recommendation and thank yous from clients will go. Oops. This letter from the Colonel's been misfiled.
And let's go ahead and look at this. Murphy, I thought I'd write you this note to you to wish you well in your new venture. Also, you might think I still hate your guts for that little stunt you pulled on me with the ethics board. As it turns out, a few of my friends at the SFPD, among others, were able to help me clear things up and get my PI license reinstated. So other than the character smearing and public humiliation, everything's worked out fine. And I do still hate your guts, you ungrateful little two-faced turd. I put a lot of trust in you, and you took you under my wing and showed you the ropes of the business, and for what? A knife in the back. A word of advice. Someday you're going to learn that not everything is black and white. Sometimes you got to bend the rules a little to make them work right. And even more importantly, never betray your friends. That kind of thing comes back to haunt you. So again, good luck running your own agency. If anyone ever needed it, it's you. And don't expect me to send any business your way. I don't like seeing people waste their money. The Colonel. Yeah, you remember the Colonel from Under a Killing Moon. We did not exactly part terms on good terms.
This special place will be for storing precious mementos of my future family, and the beautiful, virtuous woman will become my bride.
Again. Ha!
I'll use this drawer to store articles and newspaper stories that will be written about my incredible cases and daring exploits. The cabinet itself was dirt cheap.
And yeah,
I'm going to store all the business awards I receive in this drawer.
unfortunately, most of the containers we dig through in the game we will not get a response for each one. It'll just be, oh, this one's empty, oh, this one's empty.
This is the door to my walk-in closet and bedroom.
Yeah, despite the fancy new digs, we are still living in a closet.
Humphrey Bogart, my one true inspiration. When it comes to fashionable attire, I believe in quality over quantity. This holds all 4 of my color-coordinated outfits. This is the one thing that I refuse to skimp on. It's the finest cot that money can buy.
With the finest triangular pillows.
This is the one thing that I refuse to skimp on. I'm saving these bottles of cold duck for a special romantic dinner. All of the flavor and none of the mind-numbing alcohol.
Again.
This TV
Ha!
will come in handy if I can ever afford a TV.
Okay, so we've looked at everything in the apartment except for this.
The Royal Game of India. In my book, Parcheesi, Twister, and Ms. Pac-Man are the triumvirate of competitive gaming.
Yes, we know all about Twister, don't we? I guess they could afford the rights to mention it this time.
Well, 5 would be nice here.
Nice office door.
Are you the private investigator?
Oh, that's what someone painted on the door.
I'll take that as a yes. I'd like to hire you, if you're available.
I'm available. I'm very available.
Well, it just so happens that I am. What can I do for you, Ms.
Linsky, but I'd prefer if you called me Sylvia.
Okay, Sylvia. I'm Tex Murphy. Have a seat.
I'm sorry if I disturbed your game.
Well, that's all right. I was losing anyway.
Would you like one?
No, actually, there's a rumor going around that those things are bad for you.
Lots of things are bad for you. That doesn't stop me from enjoying them.
So, why are you in the market for a PI?
My father, Carl Linsky, died a week ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
The police think it's suicide. I believe they're wrong.
Well, the police are usually pretty good in matters like this. I mean, I can't believe they'd make that big a mistake.
My father wasn't suicidal, and I'll pay you to prove it.
Okay, your father's name is... Sorry, was?
Carl Linsky.
Okay. Well, if we rule out the suicide, that leaves 3 other ways to go. I mean, it could have been an accident, or natural causes, or it could have been murder.
The police say that they have witnesses that saw him jump off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Well, I guess that rules out the first 2 then. So you think your father was murdered?
He didn't kill himself, I know it.
Look, if I take your case, you gotta understand there's no money-back guarantee. And it doesn't sound real promising.
I just don't know what else to do.
Who's the officer in charge?
The detective's name is Eve Clements.
All right, I'll go down and I'll talk to her. We can get together later and I'll tell you what I found out.
I'm staying at my father's house. Here's the address.
Nice male gaze on the camera.
Now, about the money up front. How much do you need? Because I haven't got a lot.
I'm running a special this week. If I decide not to take your case, there isn't going to be any charge.
Thank you. I'll be waiting.
Nice to meet you, Sylvia.
So yeah, that is how Tex met his soon-to-be ex-wife. And this strikes me as a good point to pause and note. That's our first major difference between this and Mean Streets. Apart from Mean Streets, Sylvia looked like your typical Valley girl. Here she looks like a 1940s film noir femme fatale, which is oddly appropriate. And you'll note a little change from Mean Streets. The detective in charge of the case there was Steve Clements. It is now Eve Clements. Try and diversify the cast a little bit more. Always an admirable goal. But we will go ahead and close this first chapter out, and next time we will begin exploring the case proper. We'll see you next time.